Welcome back to Be Productive. I am your host, Clara Capano, and I have a question for you. Is your organization protected with cybersecurity systems? I certainly hope you are. But to help us and to help you, I have my friend and expert in this field, Greg Schaefer, here to talk with us about the importance of having quarterly governance committee meetings. Cybersecurity is something that is out there. It's been around for many decades, and it's something we need to pay attention to. So, Greg, so excited to have you here with us today.
Great to be back.
You are such a wealth of knowledge in this area, and I know that you've been doing this for over 30 years. So I really hope that our viewers and our listeners are going to perk up because you are sharing information that is something that all of us need, regardless of the size of our organization. So, talking about these governance committees, talk to us really first about what is the purpose of having a quarterly governance committee as far as it relates to our security and the information security we have.
So one of the most important aspects of any security program is what we refer to as governance. And governance is simply how are you going to manage the program? How are you going to lay out your policies, your procedures? How are you going to look at risk and understand risk? How are you going to then reach compliance in certain areas? How are you going to implement controls and all of that? But without some sort of governance, uh, bringing everything together,
Mhm.
you're really not being as effective as you can. And with the quarterly governance committees, they're they're basically comprised of folks from all business units in an organization, from the C-suite on down, whichever business units are the most important. And the reason for that is that the reason for these committee meetings, the purpose is communication. That's the
Mhm.
main purpose. Now, there's also some other ancillary purposes with regards to audits and being able to show that you're doing communication by taking proper minutes. But the main purpose is communication. And when I mean by communication, it's not just one direction, it's in both directions. So from one direction, it's imperative that the security leader, whether it be a CISO or a virtual CISO, which is what we do, that that they can they can communicate to the C-suite and the board of directors enough information so that then the C-suite and the board of directors can make risk-informed decisions, because ultimately they own the risk. They have to be able to mitigate the risk, and there are certain ways to mitigate the risk. You can mitigate the risk by avoiding it or transferring it, like with insurance, or controlling it with controls, or you can accept it, which is a proper strategy. But the point being is that you can't accept the risk if you don't have that understanding. So a quarterly governance committee usually consists of those leaders, topics relevant to the information security environment of the business, major projects that are going on, what their strategic plans are going forward. And then the other communication is based on that, because the CISO, the information security officer, the virtual information security officer, needs to understand what initiatives are going on within the organization. So when all is said and done, the purpose is communication.
Yeah. Communication is critical for organizations. And in my background of working with organizational leaders, being able to have these types of meetings, and I love how you're talking quarterly because that gives you that 90 days. It really gives you some real information to dive into and to analyze. It gives you enough, every week, every month. Sometimes that 90-day period is really what you need. And I love that you're talking about including people at different levels, all the way from the top C suite all the way down, and having those open dialogues. When we get this together, like you said, you're going to look at all different angles. When you start to gather this information together on a quarterly basis, how are you finding that these committees are then using this information to help the organization make better, more well informed decisions, especially as it comes into their risk assessment?
Well, it all gets down to a couple of things. The first thing is that not everybody is a subject matter expert in everything. So I'm not a finance subject matter expert. I can do a little bit, but you probably don't want me doing your taxes. Somebody in legal isn't an information security expert. Somebody in mortgage, like in banking, for example, won't be an IT expert. And it's very hard to get these people all together in one place and focus for 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours on information security. And by getting everybody together, then you can start having those free-flowing discussions. If you just do it via email or Slack or something like that, you're not going to get the real full flavor. You're not going to have that brainstorming. You're not going to have that understanding of the risk in different environments without bringing the people together and talking. I'm a big proponent of actually meeting face to face with these as well too. I understand in the post-COVID era, there's a lot, we're still using Zoom and other platforms a lot to do those sorts of things, but sometimes getting together face to face for these meetings is important. And again, it's very tough to get all these folks together in one room. So you get all the subject matter experts together, you talk risk, information security risk up and down the chain, and how it relates with the other risk in the organization, because really, that's how businesses make money. They take risks, and information security needs to be a part of that.
Yeah. So you talk about these ideas. One, they're only quarterly, but you talk about the real situation of especially getting everybody in the room. What are some of the challenges in not just establishing and creating these, but also maintaining them so that they are still valuable in getting the information and the results that an organization is looking for?
Well, there's a component of burnout with regards to all of the cyber threats that have happened out there. I get burned out from it. It's like sometimes people ask me, "Have you heard about the latest threat?" And I'm like, "Which one?" Like, I don't know. I don't keep up with them sometimes because it's like they're always coming, and you get that burnout, and that in itself becomes a risk. So what ends up happening is that sometimes business leaders, they become more disengaged from the process. That's a big challenge with regards to establishing and maintaining these committees. And what I mean by disengaged, they realize, well, okay, as far as to meet compliance with some standards, like a lot of those frameworks and standards and regulations, they require that you do this. It's like, okay, let's just do the meeting, check the box, and we're done. And checking the box is compliant, but is not security. And that's a problem there too. So how do you engage them? Again, this gets down to making it interesting, integrating security with the business. I've preached that integration of security for the business forever, it seems like, and it never gets old because the worst thing that a security professional can do is just come in and start speaking security and be like the office of no. It's if you can show that you're trying to help move the business forward, then that's going to help engage them. Now, the other aspect, the other problem sometimes is getting involvement from all the business units. Sometimes people will say, well, I don't really need to be there. And
Mhm.
you sometimes got to get around that and say, no, you really do,
Mhm.
because this affects the entire organization. So everyone or of the C-suite, including like folks in marketing, because that's huge. You have a data breach, for example, how are you going to communicate it? And how you do communicate it is one of the most essential things as to how you survive that breach. So a lot of challenges involved, but the payback is worth it.
Absolutely. So many really valuable nuggets in this discussion. Now, I know that you have a book that has a lot of value to it. So tell us a little bit about that.
So information security for small and mid-sized businesses, we're working on the third edition right now. But basically, this book, as it is the second edition right now, is a culmination of a lot of the questions that people have asked us over the years working with small and mid-sized businesses. Simple questions. It's not technical at all. It's more about some of the things we've talked about. What are frameworks? Why do you need a governance? There's a whole section on governance in here. And the good thing about it is that anybody can get a free copy of the second edition. All they need to go do is go out to our website. That's vcisoservices.com, and you can click and download for the price of an email address. You can click and download an ebook version of
Yeah.
it. Now, the third edition hopefully will be out thinking later in the summertime, the way things are going right now, knock on wood.
Perfect. And I value what you're doing so much, and I can really appreciate and I honor you and your company because you're giving all these resources. In addition to the book, I know that you have a blog on your website, all with the intent of again educating and informing business owners so that we can work smarter. And that sings to my heart because I'm all about, working at the highest level, being productive, and at the heart of all of that are these things that you're talking about, which is communication, collaborating with your team, and again, looking at the overall way that we show up. So, Greg, thank you again for being with us today. And for all of you watching, go to the website, get that book, and get your committees together. Once a quarter is all you need, but let's make sure that everyone on the team is having a voice and we are all working together to protect the interest of the organization. We'll be right back. Stay tuned for more Be Productive.